Have you ever wondered about the relationship between different file descriptors in your programming projects? It can be confusing, right? If that's you, then you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into the relationship between /dev_tty and standard input, output, and error. I totally get it. Many developers have faced the challenge of understanding how these file descriptors work, especially when it comes to redirection. You're not alone in this. It's a common question among programmers. Here's the specific question we're addressing today. One user asked, what's the difference between dev_tty and standard input, output, and error? They mentioned that they know these have different file descriptors and that standard input can be redirected. Sound familiar? Let's explore this together. So what exactly is the difference? Dev_tty represents the terminal associated with the process, while standard input, output, and error are streams that can be redirected. Understanding this distinction is crucial for effective programming. And don't go anywhere. I've got a practical example at the end that will clarify this concept even further. To understand the relationship between dev_tty and standard input, output, and error, we first need to clarify what dev_tty represents. It is a special file that refers to the controlling terminal for the current process. Next, let's look at standard input, output, and error. These are represented by the file descriptors 0, 1, and 2 respectively. Standard input is typically the keyboard, while standard output and error are usually the terminal screen. Now, when the user reads from /dev_tty, they are directly interacting with the terminal. In contrast, reading from standard input may involve redirection, meaning the input could come from a file or another source. When writing to dev_tty, the output goes directly to the terminal, while writing to standard output may also be redirected. This means that standard output can be sent to a file or another program. In summary, while standard input, output, and error can be redirected and may not always point to the terminal, /dev_tty always refers to the terminal. Therefore, they are not the same, but they can interact in similar ways depending on how the user sets up their environment. Fun fact, the concept of file descriptors dates back to the early days of Unix. It's amazing how these foundational ideas still impact programming today. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. This user explains that unless there is redirection, /dev_tty is used to display both standard output and standard error. They highlight that you can choose to send your output to different file descriptors instead of just /dev_tty. Here's the takeaway. Dev_tty is not just a link to standard input, output, or error. It's a unique interface that allows direct interaction with the terminal. Understanding this can enhance your programming skills significantly. And there you have it. You've now got a clearer understanding of the relationship between /dev_tty and standard input, output, and error. If you found this helpful, hit the subscribe button for more insights, and don't miss our next video where we tackle more programming mysteries.